speaker this morning is Dawn Gray. She's the Executive Director of the United Way of Front Royal, Warren County. She moved to Front Royal just over a year ago, and after a few months of making that crazy commute to DC, she landed a position right here in Front Royal. She brings more than 15 years of nonprofit management and community outreach experience to the United Way. In her 10 months with the organization, she has implemented many changes and has taken the agency in a whole new direction. So I'll let Dawn give you more information on all of that.
Too many cords over there. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today. Don't usually get mics, so this is new for me. So I'm excited about that. So how many of you are familiar with United Way of Front Royal, Warren County? Okay, so most of the room. That's great. It's wonderful to hear. I see a lot of familiar faces, so hopefully it's because I've met with you and not just looking at pictures from past events that we've had. We've had some wonderful volunteers, especially with our Day of Caring, and so we do plan to continue doing Day of Caring. So as I came on board with United Way, I found that United Way was still very, I guess, old, traditional United Way as far as the agency itself. The United Way as a whole has changed its business style from kind of a very member organization, we support those organizations and that's all that we do, to becoming more community oriented, being able to build a presence in the community so that we can respond to community needs quickly and so that we can address issues that are concerning to our donors. And so as I came on board, started looking outward and talking to people in the community, I realized that we really needed to build some partnerships and some relationships in the community to find out what the community needs are, what our donors' desires are, and where do we fit in the community. United Way can be a very powerful voice for those who cannot speak for themselves, those who are not able to stand up in front of a group like such as yourselves and say, hey, we need some help here. If you've been watching the news lately, you know that we've released the ALICE Project. And the ALICE Project is something that United Way is statewide. We had 27 United Way agencies partnered together on a research project to talk about a very specific audience or a very specific group of people. And ALICE is not a person. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed People. These are our working families in our community that make more than the poverty level, but are making less or not enough to actually make ends meet. We all know these people. There are teachers, there are police officers, our firemen, there are customer service representatives, there are kids, there are parents, there are siblings, there are friends. We talk with everyone, these folks every day. They're not going to tell you they're struggling, but they do. They can't get a ride to work, or they can't pay the electric bill this month. School's starting, they can't afford school clothes for their kids, so they're putting off other things to make those things happen. These families are working 2 and 3 jobs. They're struggling to find ways to get ahead. And so it's something that we've started looking at. How do we help those specific people? In the data, 27% of the Warren County population meets the criteria for ALICE. And that's more than poverty, which is more than $25,000 a year in income, but less than the survival targeted budget. So survival house rate for a family of 4 in Warren County is $65,000 a year. That's pretty steep considering the types of jobs that we have available in Warren County. A family of 4 needs to make $36 an hour just to make the basics. That's not buying the extras, the school clothes, the second car, the buying a home. These are things where they're getting stuck in a rental cycle. They're getting stuck where if they have a car breakdown, they could lose their job because they can't afford to get their car fixed. And then if they lose their job, now they've lost their income and they've got to start over, they have no view. So it really becomes a snowball effect for these families. And if they go to get help, they make $1, $2, $4, $5 more than the cutoff point, so they can't get any type of benefits or services to help them get to that next point. So we're taking a very close look at that population here, what their needs are as far as how do we help them? How do we as a community come together to make this better? We know it's not higher wages. If you pay any attention at all to the minimum wage being raised to $15 an hour in other regions, those businesses that actually bump that minimum wage up are now losing jobs. They're being automated, so workers are being replaced by kiosks. Businesses have had to raise their prices, they're losing customers, and now they have to lay off workers because they don't have enough income coming in to support a position for that person. So there has to be another way to help address some of these issues and concerns. So we are really looking closely at the data, what it tells us, and we're also talking to the community. We're talking to employers, we're talking to Alice families, we're talking to just anybody. Everybody knows somebody who's Alice, and what would be a solution? Is there a program? There's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a fix, but what are some things that we could do to help make life a little bit better, help them get to that next level so that they can succeed. They can buy a home, they can have a comfortable life and kind of achieve those dreams that we all have when we first start working and getting out in life. Let's see, so with that, I have an advisory board that I've been forming, and I'm looking for members to come in and talk with us and actually take a closer look at that data. We have a meeting on August 10th at my office at 4 o'clock, and we're going to hit some key points in the data. We also had a needs assessment that was released in April, and I'm comparing the two reports. The community needs assessment is strictly numbers and data points. The Alice report gets a little more narrative and starts telling stories about how these families are struggling. But the numbers reflect each other. It's almost like you could go just bullet point by bullet point. The community needs assessment is just straight data. These are the people living in poverty. These are people just above poverty. These are the increases that we're seeing of school readiness, graduation rates, and different things. The Alice report kind of tells more of the story, but it echoes what we're seeing in the needs assessment. So we're looking at those data points and then looking to United Way to identify those agencies that are already providing services so we can help elevate their causes, whether it's financially getting the word out, what is it that we can do to help them do their job better, and then also identifying gap areas where we can start filling in those blanks as far as what's missing in the community that we can assist with, and also advocating for this particular group, because there's not an agency out there that's going to the powers that be and say, hey, this is a problem here. We need to start figuring out, is affordable housing a solution? Is higher wages a solution? Where do we start taking a look at those things? So I'm asking for the community to come and have this discussion with me. We can maybe identify a few key areas that we can start doing some real work in, making some change here in the community. Let's see. Breakfast, you guys are all so quiet. I have to thank Carol. She had to really talk me into this because I am not a morning person. So, let's see. Also, we have our campaign kickoff. For those of you who've been around for a while, you know that United Way, we do campaigns with our employers here in town. We also do with local businesses. We get out and talk with folks about how to support the agencies that we have. This year we have several agencies that we're supporting. I think we have 9 now on the roster. And so we're actively campaigning to help continue to support those. So agencies like St. Luke Community Clinic, I saw Vicki here this morning. We also support House of Hope. I'm trying to ramble off the list. I should have left my notes on on my table here. Oh gosh, I just drew a complete blank. I'm sorry, folks.
Blue Ridge Housing?
I'm sorry.
Blue Ridge Housing.
Blue Ridge Housing, Blue Ridge Legal, Blue Ridge Opportunities. Thank you. You got me on my Blue Ridges there. Healthy families with their parenting classes, and then there's one or two others.
Blue Ridge Opportunities.
Yeah, Blue Ridge Opportunities. Are you on my website? Got the computer up there. So, but we support their agencies and their causes, specific projects that they're doing in the community that fill that void, that gap in services that that we don't have currently in Warren County. And so with the campaign kickoff, we do have a campaign kickoff event coming up. So August 26th, we're having our Front Royal Block Party. It's going to be at another golf course here in town, Blue Ridge Shadows, and it's going to be a barbecue. We're going to have a little putting tournament, and so we're real excited about getting this out. We have tickets available now, but that's going to be our big kickoff to the campaign. This event is taking the place of the Shrimp and Oyster Festival that you're all used to seeing, and so with the Front Royal Block Party, the reason we call that, if you haven't seen, we also have a board game coming out. It's a new take on the Warren County favorites. It's called the Front Royal Block Party, and you go around town, you collect all of your favorites, you have to take them to the party. The favorites like C&C's Frozen Treats, Royal Cinemas, Skyline Drive, so there's a lot of different favorites. Fantastic way to get the family together, but the board games should be available at the Front Royal Block Party event, so that's not confusing for anybody. So, but tickets are available, so if you're interested in coming, please come see me. I've got tickets here today. I've also get with me at any point, or any of our board members, and we'll be able to get you those tickets. Any questions for me?
The process for qualifying organizations locally to become members of United Way.
Excellent question. Did everybody hear it? Okay. How do you become a member? How does an organization become a member of United Way? That's one of the changes I've implemented, is that we're doing away with the membership requirement. So for the next funding cycle, so for in January when we announce the funding cycle, the grants, call for grants, we'll be open to any 501c agency. We still go through the process of checking financials. We want to make sure that an agency meets the basic qualifications as far as being fiscally sound. Also, that we're going to be announcing focus areas. So if you have a project that falls under our focus areas, you will be invited to apply for grant funding. So we're not going to be limited to just our member agencies anymore. They're actually now becoming partner agencies, and we'll be partnering with them in the community as well. What this does for us is that we can respond much, much faster to changes in the community need. So in the past, it would take 2 years for an agency to qualify for funding. This allows you that if you have a program under our focus areas, you'll be able to qualify for funding that first year. And so that is a big dramatic difference. It's a different type of cycle. It allows us to be more nimble in responding to community needs. Yes, ma'am.
So, a question and a comment, or maybe the other way around. First, I'm really glad that you are looking to key informants, because the needs assessment reported by United Way in our entire planning district is based largely on the county health rankings.
Yes.
From Robert Wood Johnson, and unfortunately they apply only partially to us, because in areas where there aren't direct local measures taken, they are using state averages. So we're actually using city data for a rural area by and large.
Right.
So, you know, a cautionary note there. And the second thing is, I just wanted to welcome you and tell you how glad I am that you're here working on all these things.
Thank you. So with our community needs assessment that we released in April, and I got word my website is just about ready, so I'll be updating content this weekend. The community needs assessment and the ALICE report will be available to anyone to use for the data. The community needs assessment, we partnered with United Way of Northern Shenandoah Valley and United Way of Page County. to build this together for the whole northern Shenandoah Valley region. It didn't make sense for each of us to do our own. It's very expensive and time consuming. And then with the ALICE project, it was the 27 United Ways actually built a research team to go through local data and state data to build the report. So they tried not to use filler data anywhere. They tried to get real numbers wherever they could. So the ALICE report is 322 pages and the needs assessment is 225 pages or something, but it's available in PDF form on our, or it will be on our website, hopefully by Monday. Cross my fingers here. But it's something that any organization can go in and use that data to build their case, their argument for any of the projects or programs that they're using. And we did rely on the hospital here locally for some of their, they did their health assessment, their needs assessment.
And the hospital used the Robert Wood Johnson.
Right, and so again, it was
drive.
We're trying not to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to use the resources that were out there and available, and we'll update this report every 3 years so we can track our progress on if we implement a program, were we effective in what we had set out to do.
And the comment is that the community health needs assessment done by Valley Health System has been compared to itself year to year, and it's not valid because the Robert Wood Johnson Community Health Rankings Project changes the measures every year.
Right.
So if you want something that you can track, you'll need to develop your own report.
Well, and that's the ALICE project is our own piece of that, and we'll be repeating that in 2 years and not 3. Our research team has agreed to go back and look at those data points again. We also have to have time to implement programs and start seeing some changes before we'll see that. So every 2 to 3 years is when we'll see that data updated.
Thanks.
Tom, what is the application process?
The application process, our board is currently working on developing our focus areas and the areas that we're going to focus on. We actually just last week had our strategic planning process, and we've got some details. So probably December timeframe, we'll be releasing our focus areas of what we'll entertain as far as applications, projects, and areas that we want to cover. January, we'll accept letters of intent. And then from those letters of intent from agencies who wish to apply, we will be selecting those that fall under our focus areas with projects that look like they meet what it is that we're trying to do in the community. And so then those agencies will be given an invitation to apply for the funding.
If I could follow up just a little bit, one of the things Rotary is really trying to do is partner with other organizations. And we partner with the United Way every year in some fashion.
Sure.
But I think Rotary wants to sort of up our game on that. And if we happen to select a beneficiary for our club that is applying at the United Way, maybe you talk to the United Way board to see if they would be interested in more of an actual partnership, sort of similar to what happened in Phoenix. So.
Okay. Well, and that's also something that I'm looking at is developing those partnerships among agencies so that we're not working in a silo, that we can start building bigger projects, because no one agency can do it by themselves. It's going to take the whole community to come together to do that. So it's something, in my background, I'm used to working with partnerships between agencies, and it's something that I'm starting to get warming up the waters, basically, to get some collaboration going here in Front Royal.
Yeah. And I think to follow on to what George was saying too, is that in past years, we've actually used some of the United Way's data from the standpoint of the fact that you do pre-qualify organizations, because each year we have a process that we go through to select the organizations, the primary organizations that get most of the dollars and work from our gala. And that we've had organizations that we have considered but have not made the cut, primarily because their financials, they weren't a sound organization.
Right.
And the fact that you've already qualified is a big deal. It helps us out a lot too, but it would be really nice if we could, I guess, pick your brain really closely to find out, what you consider the greatest needs are in our community now.
A lot of the United Way area of
That we might
focus
be able to.
overlap with the Rotary 6 areas of
Right.
focus as well. And
Yeah,
probably-
and we've got our focus areas, they're back down to 3, which is where they should be, is health, education, and financial stability. And so that covers a lot of territory, if you think about it. And so with that, we are still looking very specifically at financials, making sure it's a sound. We don't want to throw money at an agency that's already struggling. Not to say we couldn't help that agency in some way, shape, or form, but we're not just going to cut them a check and say, here you go. We want to make sure that we are still screening our agencies, so you'll still have that reliable resource, but then also taking a look at the alignments of what are the focus areas, how do they line up with maybe what you're doing. And wouldn't it be great for an agency if the two of us came together and were able to give them a bigger gift and really help elevate their mission? So.
How is the Alice project going to dovetail in with the, say, non-projects that are agencies that you're working with now?
Well, and a lot of what we're seeing, like 19% of the Warren County population is uninsured. And so St. Luke Community Clinic is filling that need there by serving the uninsured population. If you look at our community needs assessment, in Warren County, I think the number is just over 4,400. For every 4,400 people, there's one dentist. And so for Vicki, I can't see her, she's in the back there somewhere. That dental chair is very important because we have community members who can't afford dental care, they don't have dental insurance. Where do they go? They'd have to go to Winchester, they'd have to go somewhere else to get that service, and Vicki's, the community clinic has that dental chair available for those folks. And the prescription coverage, I hear all the time, people just raving, they couldn't get their medication, they went to the community clinic, they were able to get their medication until they could get their disability to come in, or until they could get to a point where they could afford to do it on their own or get their insurances in place. Alan, you had a question?
Well, I guess my question is statistically, I find we're pretty good at gathering statistics and gathering information, and I guess my interest would be, what would be some of the things, maybe where the rubber hits the road?
Sure.
The output of this program and this data and statistics, what might be 2 or 3 things that may help that group of people?
Right. And that's
because I don't think you're going to be able to go out here and say, hey, Front Royal, Warren County, this is the data that we've collected. Consequently, you need to increase the wages of all these people. That's not going to
that's not going to
happen.
work. We already know that doesn't work.
Well,
And
that's
so,
right,
and sometimes more money is not the answer. And one of the examples that they gave us was in talking with an employer, they had a great employee, could not make it to work on time, and was in trouble being written up and on the verge of being fired for tardiness. And they asked, they said, well, have you talked to this person to find out what's going on? Well, it turns out she had a person who was giving her a ride who was consistently 15 minutes late picking her up every morning. So they shifted her schedule another half hour so that she could make it to work on time. And she blossomed in that role, went on to managerial, was able to get her own form of transportation. So it's really taking a look at what's causing their particular issue. That's why there's not a one-size-fits-all. We can't say just raise wages across the board, because then prices go up, we're back right where we started again. So we have to bring employers to the table. We have to bring the businesses to the table, but we also have to bring the community to the table and say, hey, what is it that's really going to help? Because more money isn't always the answer. People look at me like I have 2 heads when I say that. But it's really, if you throw money at it, you're just prolonging the inevitable. You could give somebody $1,000 this week and they'll be fine for a month or 2, but they're going to come right back to you and go, I'm sorry, right back in the same position again. It's actually, how do we change? So is it developing the workforce? Is it job skills training? Is it going to college or learning a trade? Where is it that we need to focus some of those efforts? And sometimes it's such an individual answer that we may have to get very specific and say, this will cover most of the folks, let's run with this. But if we catch a person who says, I don't know what to do, we sit down, we chat with them, and we might be able to find a solution for them to get them to that next level without really spending a whole lot of money. But yeah, taking a look at that issue, which is why we're bringing the advisory board together, because I have all sorts of ideas, but I'll be going in 50 different directions if I do that. If we hone it in, get 2 or 3 going, we can really focus on those areas. Any other questions?